So I just arrived here and I saw this beautiful tree from the street, so I stopped by and I think I will capture this tree. Yeah, well, let's set up. So there we go. I start directly to sketch the general shape of my main subject, which is this tree. And I directly made a mistake here. I will tell you at the end what is this big mistake. For the first time with my en plein air painting, I bring back the painting in the studio and I address a quick critique of that painting. So if this is something you like, please let me know in the comment section and I will redo it again in the future. So here I'm placing the shadow side of my tree, and as you can see, I try to stay very thin with my first layer, and especially with the shadow side. It will be easier for me to add more paint on top of a thin layer. If I add directly a thick layer at my first pass, this will make it very hard to add more paint on top of it later. So it's very important to me to stay very thin at my first layer. This is something I found very useful to focus on one single subject, like this tree, for example, here, when starting oil painting. I try sometimes to paint a whole scene, and it can be any subject, but trying to capture a whole scene when you start to learn plein air painting, I found it very difficult because there is so much information to capture or to try to simplify. It was very hard for me. So often I go back to a single subject. That way I can focus on that single subject, and it's already hard enough, but I think in the learning process it's a little more pleasant, it's a little more enjoyable to focus on a single subject. Here I'm placing the sky. Basically, if I want to try to capture the light that I have in front of me at the moment that I like my subject, I have more or less an hour and a half to 2 hours and a half with that same light. So the painting process is very short to bring back to the studio a finished painting. So focusing on a single subject at the beginning, I found it very useful, and it's a little easier than trying to paint or depict a whole scene. Here I'm I'm applying the paint for the light area of my tree, and as you can see, my light area, even though it's still in the light area in the value scale, it still remains in the light area. The light area is fairly dark, and this is something I've learned lately, is that I did often the mistake to place my light area too light, so the green were too light, and this doesn't read correctly. So especially with the upright subject like that is directly upright to the ground, I feel they are pretty much the darkest object in the scene. So therefore all the subject needs to remain pretty dark, and even though there's some light part, there's some small part of the foliage that might be pretty shiny and pretty bright, overall the light area needs to remain pretty dark within the light area of the value scale. So the light area of the value scale is the 5 first value or the 5 last value, depending how you count your value scale. So here my area is finally covered, my surface is finally covered with paint, so now it makes it easier to judge the value. And here I'm placing the cast shadow of the tree, and as you can see, as soon as I place the cast shadow of the tree starts to stand out and we start to see what I'm painting. Here I'm signing the painting, and as usual I sign my painting with a wooden stick, so I sign it pretty early in the process. I don't mind it. It makes it easier to remove the paint, because with the wooden stick I remove the paint. That's how I create my signature, and I found it very efficient that way and very clean. So here I enjoy the fact that it's very early in the morning. It's around 9 AM, so it's not that early, but it's still early, and lately it's something I've done and enjoyed very much, is going out as early as possible to paint. First of all, there's not mosquito as early in the morning, and there's less bugs, and also there's less human activity, so there's less noise in my surroundings, which I really appreciate, especially as I'm still very early in my learning process on plein air. I really need to stay focused on what I'm doing, what I'm making, and so it makes it easier for me to focus when there is not too much activities around me. Here I'm mixing the color for my sky holes, and a tip that I can give you for the sky holes is that it's very important that the sky holes, the value of the sky holes needs to be slightly darker than my main sky on my surface. This is because the light has a harder time going through the foliage than in the main sky area. So this is something I've learned, because when you look at the tree, your brain tricks you and you think it's very bright, these sky holes, but in reality they are slightly darker than your actual main sky. And I enjoy placing these sky holes because as soon as I place the sky holes, the trees start to take shape, and the tree is finally standing out on my surface. So I was really enjoying creating that part. My sky holes, the paint application of my sky holes are pretty thick, and I enjoy placing all these sky holes. And now I'm going back with some lighter green to depict the light falling on the foliage. And yeah, this is the last part of the painting, and it's very a part that I enjoy. I'm really happy about that part of the painting. So on the channel, I try to share everything I know about painting, as well as documenting my progress on plein air painting and with still life painting or portrait painting. Within that documentation, I also try to give you as much information as possible, as much tips as possible. So if this is something you like, please make sure to subscribe, make sure to share, like and comment this video. This really helps the channel, especially at the beginning, where I need YouTube to share my videos more in order to grow my audience and to make it easier for me to create a video for my audience. And I'm very happy about the community, the art community that is growing on my channel. I'm amazed by the comment that I get on the channel, and I want to tell you a huge thank you for that. I'm actually pretty happy about the result without having too much step back. Sometimes sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. I will see better when I go back to the studio. So my footage of the final painting was against the sun, so we couldn't really see the result. So I thought it would be a good idea to bring back the painting in the studio and to say some final words about it. So overall, I'm pretty happy about this painting. I said that I'm happy about the bottom of the trunk. With a few brush strokes, I was able to suggest the bottom of the trunk pretty well. I'm happy about the shadows of the foliage. The shadows of the foliage are darker at the bottom that there are at the top. This is because the light has a harder time penetrating the tree at the bottom of the foliage. So I think that that is a good result. Overall, I'm happy about the way it looks, but there is definitely a few details that I need to improve next time. So here, overall, the tree I think is too big in the surface. So here, for example, the branches I think works pretty well. They are not too close to the edge, even though they are pretty close to the edge, but we can still breathe a little bit. Here it's way too close to the edge, so there is no room to breathe, and this is never good when the main subject is that close to the edge of the surface. This is never recommended. I don't like it. I need to improve my main placement of my subject in the surface. These branches here should have been simplified better. I should have found a better rhythm to depict these branches. I don't think it works pretty well. I had a hard time finding these grays. Some branches were browner, some branches were grayer, and I had a hard time finding that grays. And I think it doesn't read very well. It's confusing, this area, so this is never good. This means that the simplification was not done properly. Here the sky hole, for example, this is very bad in my opinion. This shape doesn't feel organic at all. It's just fill paste on top of the tree. I think it still reads correctly from far because you look at the painting from far anyway, but it would have been better, more organic, an organic feel, a better organic feel if I would have come with a smaller brush and add and break basically that main shape. I have the same problem with this light area. So all these light areas that I place on top of the shadow are fine as a first shape, but then I should have break that main shape with some shadow color, come back in the light shape and break that main shape to make it feel more organic. I think that would have been better. The line of the field here, this is the end of the field where I was standing. This line should have been placed lower because this brings a weird perspective feel to the painting, so it should have been lower. And yeah, that's more or less it. Overall, I'm pretty happy about this painting, and I feel this is a nice step forward in my learning process on plein air painting. I'm looking forward to improve these few elements that I mentioned here in this video, and I'm looking forward for the next painting.